Hey guys, welcome back to another video here on Toned In Entertainment, where we love pop culture. Today, it's time for another comic book series review. Now, growing up in the 80s, if you are a youngster and a wrestling fan, chances are you had a little love, if not a lot of love, for the Ultimate Warrior. He was strong, he was colorful, he was fast, he was full of electricity, and yes, he was very weird. And even though he didn't have the best wrestling skills, you really didn't need that in the 80s to become one of the most popular wrestlers on the planet. Now, when it came to his promos, I thought I just didn't understand them because I was a young kid, but let's face it guys, even here in 2023 watching those promos, I have no idea what the heck he's talking about. Now, there is a comic book series about the Warrior himself, all 4 issues right here, and yes guys, the story is by the Warrior. So, is this comic book series full of electricity that'll be pumping through your veins, or will you just wish this comic was left in parts unknown? Well, let's get on with my comic book series review of The Warrior. The Warrior was known for going on and on in his promos, and often it would lead to nowhere. Well, that exact same thing can be said about this series, as there's page after page of rambling that's incoherent, often wanting me to pull my hair out, as the dialogue and the story seem to go on for an eternity, and nothing here makes any sense. Now guys, even before issue number 3 begins, there's actually an acknowledgement here that some of the readers of this comic book series may be somewhat confused. Saying somewhat confused is definitely an understatement, as the story in these 4 issues jumps around from the Warrior's father trying to mentor him in perfecting the 8 disciplines, as this will be a must if he is to defeat his adversaries of 8 minds, 8 bodies, and as many souls, to the Warrior battling a mirror image of himself in issue number 2, to issue number 3, where we see the Warrior leaving a hospital and crushing a young boy's spirit, to ending up in a bar fight. Now, as you guys can see, the first 3 issues of the Warrior comic book, they're nice and vibrant. They definitely get your attention. But as we jump into issue number 4, not only is the cover in black and white, but so are all the pages. Now, the one thing that does remain the same are the severe issues that this story has in this series. And here in issue number 4, we see the Warrior battling out in what appears, if I had to take a guess, space mutants. Now, if I were to sum up this series in one word, it's painful. Sometimes you can tell if something will interest you. Now, after making it through a dreadful read of issue number 1, I was hoping things would pick up, but time only got slower as I read through the following 3 issues. Now, my final score for the Warrior comic book series is going to be a 2 out of 10. The story gets a 2 out of 10 because, say what you will, at least it's an original idea, just not executed well. Also, Warrior doesn't hesitate to take some shots at the Hulkster and WWE as well. For the art, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. Now, while some of it is pretty good, I just couldn't enjoy it because the story is just so bad that you'll want to flip through this stinker as quickly as possible. The concept of what could have been pretty cool just ends up spiraling out of a muck, as nothing here flows together or makes sense at any point. The fun factor here is a 0, when you'd rather pound your head into the table that sits in front of you than read another page. Well, that's all that really needs to be said. Now, at the end of issue number 4, it appears that the Warrior and the artist Jim Callahan had some type of falling out, and there's actually a 4-page write-up from the Warrior calling out Callahan. But the way it's presented, I would give myself a severe migraine trying to decipher not only what words are actually on these pages, but what the actual meaning is to it anyways. Alright guys, well, that's going to wrap up my comic book series review of the Warrior comic book series, released back in 1996. Now guys, if you're a fan of the Ultimate Warrior, if you're a fan of wrestling, if you're a fan of comic books, there's still 0 reason ever to read this series. It was absolutely painful. Now, when I go to review comic books and when I purchase comic books, I'm not looking for something bad. I'm always trying to find something that I think would be interesting and would be fun. But guys, I was absolutely wrong on this comic book series. What a waste of time. By far, one of the worst things I've ever read. And guys, the only reason this comic book series actually gets a 2 is because of the art. Nothing else is redeeming, so that's the only thing that bumps us up a few points from actually getting a complete 0, because I couldn't give it a 0 or a 1 because the art is actually pretty decent, but you can't even concentrate on the art in this comic book series. It is just so bad and just one of the worst reads I've ever encountered. So guys, if you like comic books and you're a Warrior fan and you want to get these, do yourself a favor, just get them. Maybe put them in a frame, put them in a display, but don't crack them open because you will absolutely just regret reading this comic book series. So guys, have you ever read the Warrior comic book series? I hope you guys have not, because what a waste of time. I never want to go back to the series ever again. We got to find some better comic book series moving forward. So guys, if you enjoy these comic book series reviews, hopefully I saved you some time and some money from ever reading this stinker. Make sure you hit that red subscribe button so you can stay tuned in here to Toned In Entertainment for future videos.
Subscribe to the channel. Do it. Go now. Do it now.